Hello, everyone, and welcome into episode number 18 of the Vultures Row podcast. I'm your host, Joey Bonsanti. Sitting across from me, my good friend, Tony Vegas. Tony, how are we doing on this lovely Thursday?
I'm good. We have the day off. It's great. No Pat this week. He is getting busy in Italy, in my home country. So the Irishman is getting some culture to him, which I like. But yeah, it's going good. Mini camp's wrapped up. We have a few, small Jets nuggets that kind of came out this week, and looking forward to talking about it, Joey.
Absolutely. I feel like this is really the dog days of summer when it comes to podcasting and Jets content in general, because there's legitimately nothing going on for the next month until training camp. But I guess this is going to show how good we are at this. I forgot to mention as well, this is our second week in a row on Badlands. So as always, thanks again to Badlands, Joe Cap, Connor Rogers, everyone over there. And we enjoy being on the feed. And yeah. So anyways, let's start off with a few nuggets here. Like Tony said, I think the big talk of this week, and this kind of shows how slow it is the Jets signed a kicker this week. We waived Carlson. We signed Harrison Mevis. He went 20 of 21 for field goal attempts last season in the UFL for the Birmingham Stallions. 95%. That's a 95% rate. What do you think of this signing? They call him the thicker kicker. I'm not really too sure what to make of it. I think we fumbled the bag with kickers in the past. Nick Folk, Jason Myers, the list goes on and on. We had Greg the Leg, who was playing well until a couple seasons ago when he cost us a few games. But hopefully maybe this is the answer at kicker, but we'll see what the competition looks like going into training camp.
Yeah, we may have fumbled the bag, but our boy picked up the bag and ate it. So he's a big boy, and Operation Get Fat in every aspect. We didn't only want offensive linemen. I'll take big kickers as long as the guy's accurate. It's not. I originally thought it was like an actual deal. It's just like a futures deal, I think. So it was a little misleading from what I saw on Twitter. Listen, we'll see if he can prove it in the show. Kicking in the UFL, it is now.
Yeah,
UFL.
UFL is what it is.
It's obviously a little different. There's a lot less pressure than kicking for the New York Jets in the NFL. So listen, it's a camp body. We'll see him battle it out, and I kind of hope he wins the job just for the memes at this point. We've had a big kicker before, and I think he was pretty solid. Fat Randy Bullock.
Yep.
Bullock.
But Randy Bullock. I just don't think he was here for that long.
He was, and then he went to Houston, I think, and turned out to be like pretty decent.
He played for many different teams, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, listen. Big boys get me going, and I'm cool with them, giving this kid a shot. It's funny that this is something that was kind of, trending on Jets Twitter just because I think he's 6'2", 250 pounds as a kicker, which is absolutely insane. And he just genuinely looks like a fan. Like if you put him in a Jets jersey in the crowd, he would blend right in with a lot of us. So. Good to have one of us out there.
Yeah, so I believe the other kicker that he'll be going against in camp is Caden Davis. He was a UDFA as well, so we'll see how that shapes out. Honestly, I just want an answer here, and I don't think we've had a long-term kicker. You could look back. Nick Folk's been in the league for so long. I don't want to go on a rant about kickers here, but he's been in the league for so long, and I feel like we could have just kept him and called it a day. But
he's still in the league, right, for the Titans.
He got traded. Yeah, I think he got traded from New England to Tennessee. So
yeah, I mean,
it
would have been fantastic if we just had Folk for 12 years. But we've gone through a run. We've had Kerry Vedvik. Remember that? That was an interesting one.
I was at that game. I'm sure, as were you probably.
Dude, he was like a decent kicker in preseason, and then this guy came out on the field. I remember this. He looked like he was Bambi on ice, and just has never kicked a ball in his life. It's just so typical for Jets football. So hopefully, it'd be nice to have a younger guy just kind of, if they come out and they perform, that'd be nice. Jason Myers was another fumbled bag. He would have been good to keep around.
Yep.
Enough about kickers, but
yeah,
it's been a thorn in our side for a little bit.
For sure. And then right before we hopped on the podcast, CJ Mosley, former Jets linebacker, actually retired. Not surprising, but still kind of one of those things. What do you think about him as a Jet? I just wanted to reflect on him a little bit. I thought he was a really good Jet. Some may say overrated, but I think once he got injured at the first season, he wasn't really the same, but still brought the leadership, still was a tackling machine. And definitely going to miss him. I really liked him as a Jet.
Yeah, he was a good captain. I mean, the guy was a great locker room presence. He had one of the single best performances I've ever seen in my life. It was against the Browns when he had that interception. Then I think he returned a fumble for a touchdown in like his first game as a Jet.
That was the Vedvik game. That was the Bills game at home.
It was the Bills game.
Yeah, and he got injured in that game. He played the best half of football. Yeah,
it was a half of football actually.
Yep.
And then he ended up getting hurt. Yeah, I mean, listen, we asked a lot of him. He was a bigger linebacker. He came in when Gase was here. McCagnon signed him to that monster deal that was way past any price point that another linebacker was getting paid. And you know what? I didn't hate him at any point during his career. And when he opted out for COVID, I was a little annoyed because we saw that infamous picture of him at Applebee's with the red hair. But you know what, man? Saleh got hired. They asked him to lose weight. He did. He got a little more mobile. He was fantastic in the locker room. I've met him before. He's a super, super nice guy. And you know what? Overall, a great career. Hall of Fame career? No, he was really good on the Ravens. But he's a Hall of Good player. I mean, he was just solid for his entire duration here. Great in Baltimore. I'm going to remember him fondly. I have his jersey, and that's one of those ones where like I'll still wear it. You know, like it's not one of those. It's not like Tremaine Johnson where you sign him and we hate him, right? This guy was like a super good dude. He really helped. Kind of, I want to say he had a hand in like developing all these linebackers that we have now. Quincy, Sherwood. He was the veteran in that room, and he was one of the most intelligent linebackers to play the position in a Jets uniform in a long time. I mean, the guy was truly a quarterback. We may have never found a quarterback on the offensive side, but he was our quarterback on the defensive side for like 5 years. And I'm going to remember him fondly. I salute to you, CJ. Great career. I hope to meet you again, man. You were a cool dude.
Yeah, he was awesome. I would say like towards the end of his career, definitely lost his step, lost his speed, wasn't able to cover as well. But ultimately, like he was the guy that was the glue to the defense in that like 2021 to 2023 when the defense was really good before we forgot how to play last year. But honestly, really enjoyed him as a Jet. I think for me, he stained a little bit because of those ugly jerseys that we came out with.
Yeah.
Because he came in right when that era dropped. So for me, he's a little bit stained by that. But
those jerseys just ruin everything. That's insane.
That whole those years just haunt me still.
The points, man. Those were some of the ugliest jerseys I think it's like it reminds me of remember the Buccaneers went to those like digital clock.
Horrible.
Where they came out with those with Doug Martin.
Yes.
My God, dude. And then the Buccaneers went back to their classic uniforms and they won a Super Bowl. We went back to our original uniforms and Aaron Rodgers. And Aaron Rodgers blows his Achilles. No, that was okay. Aaron Rodgers blew his Achilles in the ugly ones. And then whatever. We win 5 games.
He actually didn't. We were in we wore the classics that night.
Yes, we did, but we still had the ugly ones as the main jerseys. I mean, God, it's just real quick. I mean, the picture. I looked at this like a few weeks ago. It was like Leonard Williams, like the main 4 was like Le'Veon, Chris Herndon, Leonard Williams, was Darren Lee there? Avery Williamson. You could literally just go through and just X all of them out. Like Robbie Anderson was there.
I think in that picture was Kelechi Osemele. There was
Kelechi Osemele, who
I dropped that on the Badlands tweet yesterday, by the way, for Name a Random Jet. I don't know why he came to my mind, but
Tim Dwight, Random Jet, by the way. I mean, God, what an ugly run of years. But yeah. So CJ Mosley, we'll remember you fondly in those hideous uniforms.
Absolutely. So let's move on. I think this episode, we wanted to really digest what Connor said last week. Connor Hughes episode, if you didn't see it, which you probably did, go check it out. It was awesome. He does a great job. It's the second episode with us. But I think, we didn't really get an opportunity to talk as much. He kind of gave us the information. Now we want to talk about it a little bit. And I kind of wrote down some of the biggest takeaways and definitely want to digest it here with Tony. So I think the first thing that stuck out to me, and I one of the first things he said was the competition in the practices so far. The 11-on-11s are like scrimmages. They're actually playing. And it sounds cliche and kind of almost like a kid saying, but it's like you practice how you play. And sometimes if you take that literally in the NFL, it really does translate over. And I think you look at the Detroit Lions, and I don't know how their practices are run, but I'm going to assume it's pretty similar to how the Jets practices are being run now. I love hearing something like that where these practices are super aggressive. I don't want anyone to get hurt, but they're super aggressive and they're actually playing like a real game.
Right. And this is great. There's two ways to go about this, and I think there's two ideologies, and it's kind of like broken out. And you could see it like in coaching trees, right? Like the Shanahan, McVay, all these guys, like I feel like they're very light in practice. They won't even play starters in the preseason, which we're going to play starters in the preseason, no doubt, based off of what Connor said. So I think when you have a team that we generally, the overall attitude last year, it just wasn't really what we wanted it to be. So I think this is the right approach for trying to build a winning culture with a team full of players that are generally unproven. We do have some star players, Quinnen, Sauce, all these guys that we talk so much about. But I mean, this roster is full of like, all right, dude, we gotta see what you got. And that starts in practice, right? And so to hear that, we're gonna be tackling and there's gonna be contact and things like that, this is all fantastic so long as nobody gets hurt. I don't want it to be like stupid, right? Like I played football growing up. Our practices were pretty tough, and we would be doing Oklahomas and all this stuff. But kids would get hurt, man. Like that's what would happen if you practice that hard. So it would make no sense to essentially repeat the past regime's mistakes, right? Like I'm glad to see that Aaron Glenn's going to come in here and kind of like have him going like right out of the gate. Now, there's been a lot of discussion about like the culture of the locker room and all this stuff. I don't know if we're getting to this in another question, but this is a good building block of kind of establishing that like hardcore culture, right? Like my head goes to like, Mike Vrabel probably practices like this. Dan Campbell obviously probably does. And if you go back and watch clips of Aaron Glenn mic'd up, I watched all these when we hired him. I mean, these guys are like, even the coaches are like competing. Like it's a very competitive environment. So I think that fits like what we need right now, just so long as nobody gets hurt. That's really it. Nobody gets hurt, and these guys are buying in. That's great. Now, back to the culture thing. This is all fantastic, and I see content creators coming out with videos like, "Oh, is the Jets culture already changed?" And my response to that is, we're not going to know until they start losing games. That's it, because we all thought the culture changed when Rob Saleh first got here. We didn't know a ton about him, and I feel like we were, to a degree, a little bamboozled because he was on the 49ers sideline hopping around, shouting. We were like, all right, this guy's like a fiery disciplinarian coach. And, we couldn't be further from the truth. He came in his first presser and was like, we're putting the responsibility on the players. They're going to hold themselves accountable, all this stuff. And obviously that didn't work. So when the bullets start flying in a real NFL season and you're actually going to battle every week, and you have to bounce back from tough losses, or you need to stay focused after big wins. And that was a big problem with Rob Saleh. They would get a big win and they would come out completely flat. That's when I think we're going to get like a real gauge of where the Jets culture is at. Because when you're just practicing against yourself and, the only thing that's coming out into the public is slow motion, videos of Justin Fields throwing a beautiful ball to Garrett Wilson. That's just all positive propaganda. If you go out there and you get smoked by 40, against the Bills or something, how are you going to bounce back? What's the message in the locker room? How are the players going to respond? That's where culture is built, I think. And if we see these guys flying around, after or during games where they're losing, that's where I'll be like, okay, these guys are really bought in. So that's kind of my take on the whole thing. I think we're just a little too premature, but I do like the general attitude thus far.
I think you brought up a ton of great points there, and I think we do get a little bit ahead of ourselves when these turnovers happen, we automatically say, well, this feels different. This feels different. Glenn sounds different. We said the same thing about Robert Saleh. We just need to pump the brakes a little bit. And I think the biggest thing that sticks out to me, there's guys who in Sauce and Garrett right now who deserve multi-million dollar contracts, and they're out there practicing.
Yeah.
One injury and that could ruin it for them. I just think that speaks absolute, like, so much to what Aaron Glenn's trying to build here. And I really do think that 100% attendance with some of the guys who could hold out right now. You look at Quincy Williams. I mean, Sherwood just got paid. You can make an argument on his end that he's like, I've been here for years. I've been playing my ass off. I should be getting a new contract. So I think that really speaks volumes to what he's building. I don't think it's built yet all the way up. Like you said, we come out in week one and get slapped around, and all of a sudden you're like, you look at the team last year, right? On paper, it was probably one of the best talent-wise teams we've seen in years. They gave up. That should not happen. Your team should not give up when you get punched in the mouth
with
early
veterans
in the season.
too. It was a veteran-laden roster.
Exactly. So, I mean, I know the coach got fired and all this stuff, but at the end of the day, those were guys that were clearly giving up on the team. DJ Reed, everyone else who was playing at a high level the year before, just did not feel right. So I like what you said. Until the bullets start to fly, that's when you know if the culture is actually built up.
Dude, think about it. When I watched some clips of Game of Thrones the other day, and it's like, you know what, man? You can give all these great like pre-battle speeches and whatnot, but at the end of the day, when you see another guy, trying to kill you, are you going to run away or are you going to try to, fight? And that's going to be like, it's cliche, but like, I mean, it applies, man. Like, are these guys going to, get in the foxhole with their teammates and battle, or, are they going to give up like last year? I think and I think the 100% attendance, I think he demands a different level of respect, which I think is critical. These guys want to come in and prove like what they're all about and get off on the right foot with this new coaching staff. And it makes sense that Sauce and Garrett would want to show up. They want long-term deals. They don't want to leave, right? They can make the most money here. They're living in New York. Like they could be in a lot worse like spots, right? They're clearly the star players here. Everybody's wearing their jersey. So they want to come out and show Aaron Glenn, who, to a degree, he demands some respect, man. I mean, the guy's a Pro Bowler at the NFL level. He's a respected dude throughout the league. He grinded his way to the top, and I feel like that should hypothetically trickle down to the rest of the roster.
Very relatable to the young guys, I think, and that's why I think that's why they respect him so much, is because they've seen him do it. They've seen him work up at the professional level as a player and now as a scout, as a coach. So it's really good to see. I want to move on, talk about a little bit about the offense here. Some of what Connor said. The Justin Fields stuff's really interesting. He was talking about the type of ball he throws. Maybe not the most accurate, but it's not like he's going to come in here as a running back. Like, he can actually throw the ball. And I also wanted to add on some of the, I asked a question about the wide receivers and just the state of the wide receiver room. Should we expect to see anyone else added? What are we looking like with cuts? We mentioned Gibson's getting first looks at, the slot. He mentioned Corley with the maturity issues, like, just can't get past himself. And the biggest thing for me was Garrett. He said Garrett is going to be the focal point. Garrett is going to be using motion. Garrett's going to be using the inside, the outside. That is music to our ears. I mean, if you remember when Garrett came in his rookie season, he didn't even play week one against the Ravens. All of a sudden he started to get some burn, and we were like, why the hell wasn't this kid starting all along?
He had that one play where he juked out like 4 people, and we're watching like, why is who even was the receiving core when he came in? I forget. It's like, why are these guys on the field? This guy just like deked out 7 people for a first down. Like,
Corey Davis, etc. So, but yeah, I mean, Garrett Wilson should be getting the ball, or looked at least every play, and the offense should be built around him. And that's when Devontae came in last year. It was like, we're force feeding him, and meanwhile Garrett's over here probably open. A lot of the times we would go back and watch the all-22, and it was like, he was wide open there, he was wide open over there, but Rodgers was trying to force it to him. I don't think that's going to be a problem this year. I also think it could be underlooked. The Ohio State connection between Fields and Garrett Wilson, they were monstrous at Ohio State. So hopefully that connection can be rekindled. And they're really, I mean, I know Angstran's going to make him the focal point of the offense, especially if Connor Hughes is saying, they're using motion, which the whole league does, and we didn't do it last year. So I'm looking forward to seeing this offense not only from a running perspective, but to see what they can do in the passing game as well.
Yeah, I'll start with Garrett. I mean, it's foolish to have this like stagnant offense of, Garrett's here, Devontae's here, Lazard's here, and that's it. Like, there's no motion, there's no trickery. It's a dinosaur offense, and that's what Nathaniel Hackett and Aaron Rodgers, that's what they liked, right? I mean, you saw Downing come in, and you saw a little bit more, motion, and it was almost like a breath of fresh air. But if you have a player as talented and versatile as Garrett Wilson, who can play on the outside, he can make plays on the outside. We know that. He can play in the slot. He has the perfect build for a slot receiver. If he couldn't play on the outside, he would be one of the best slot receivers in the NFL. I mean, the guy can absolutely cook slot receivers on slants. And, just try to get him the best matchups. Like, why are we putting him in Sharpie, against the best corner on the other team, before Devontae got here? Why are we doing that? Like, try to get him on a slot corner, try to get him, on a linebacker or something. And it's just, if Engstrom can use that a little, I don't want to say a little more, a lot more, especially now that Devontae is gone and there's not a lot of, options in the receiver room, you're going to have to get a little bit more creative to get him open. It's almost like Connor said. I mean, I missed the Mike LaFleur days of him, with the motion, with plays. Remember that play? I think it was actually called cocaine, where they would run a slant and then they would like throw it back. Do you remember this?
Yeah, I do.
And then other teams were copying it, and I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool. We actually have a guy that like knows, a modern day. He knows his way around a modern day NFL offense. That was cool. On the Justin Fields note, we're not going to see him use his legs in mini camp, right? I mean, it's a passing camp. That's obviously where he's the biggest threat. But one thing that I picked up on is that he mentioned that he throws a prettier ball, and the arm talent is more significant than the likes of Zach Wilson and Sam Darnold. I mean, both of these guys were drafted number 2 and number 3 overall for their arm talent. Zach Wilson was like, that was his thing. Like, he had a lively arm. He could absolutely zip the ball. He threw nice, deep ball. And for Connor to get on here and say that he throws a better ball than Zach and Sam did in training camp and mini camp, that's super encouraging. It's all just going to come down to consistency with Justin Fields. Can he put together, 4 or 5 game stretches where he's consistently throwing the ball well? I don't know. You don't know. I don't even think Aaron Glenn knows. But you know what? It's the risk that they took, and it's a risk that I think most of us should be on board with, man. I mean, the guy has a superstar trait, right? And that's his running. If he can put together, the passing aspect of his game, and if what Connor said is correct, and he has the ability to throw a really nice deep ball. We know that. I mean, we watched him throw 6 touchdowns against Clemson. He should have been the number 2 pick back in 2021. It's who I wanted. I think it's who you wanted as well.
Yep.
If he can put that together, then all of a sudden we have, I don't want to say a problem, but like, okay, do we re-sign this guy? Like, what the heck just happened here? I mean, it's almost like a freebie, like, dart throw that we took that didn't cost any assets. It just cost temporary cap space for the next 1 or 2 years. So it's great to hear that he throws a nice ball, but it's going to all come down to, can he be accurate? Can he stack multiple games? And that's really what's going to make or break his tenure here in New York. So I think we're going to see that a little bit more in joint practices, training camp, and, probably in the preseason, he's going to be getting some burn. So I'm really looking forward to it. It really added a sense of excitement for me. Week 1's going to be electric, man. Like, what if he just goes out there and rips it up? Yeah, like that's in the realm of possibilities. Whereas, if we trotted out, I don't know, Kirk Cousins on one Achilles, I wouldn't be as excited. So as a fan, I'm all for this.
And I think a thing that also isn't being talked about is this is do or die for him. Might be his last opportunity to get a real shot, whether it's with the Jets or another team, to prove that he's a starting caliber talent in the league. So for him, he's coming into this opportunity like this is it. I need to perform now.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm going to get, maybe they'll give him a long leash because I don't know if they're going to put Tyrod in or what their plan is, but I think he knows that he has to go out and perform now or it might be over for him. So I think to your point about the dart throw, it's like you really can't go wrong here because he knows that he needs this as much as anyone. And I think we need him too because
Right.
if he goes out and wins 10, 11 games, which I don't foresee happening, but if it does, this might be our long-term quarterback. It's mid-June right now, but we'll see, like you said, how he plays and performs in a game. I'm not really taking too much stock into mid-June minicamp throws, but we'll see how it progresses in training camp and preseason as well.
And great point there. We need him. He needs us. Let's make it work, Justin. Let's figure out this quarterback position. I've been a fan of him for a long time. If he's our future guy, I'm all for it. I love his demeanor. He's got aura, as the kids say. We are 27, by the way. We're not 12.
No, we're not.
Like some YouTube comments were saying. But we are hip. Fields has got some aura, so I would be totally cool with him being the answer.
What's the most likely scenario? 8 and 9, a middle of the pack thing where you're sitting there like, do we resign him?
That's what's going to happen.
I'm just kidding, kind of, but not really. Let's move on.
Trade up, yeah.
My last point, I wanted to kind of switch to defensive scheme here. Tony had asked this question. I thought it was a really good question. What are we going to see out of this new scheme? And I think the answer from Connor was like, yeah, you're going to see guys blitzing all over the field with this Wilkes defense. You're going to see, he said he's seen corners, he's seen linebackers, he's seen all sorts of different packages, which is really cool to see. With a solid defense, we saw a lot of soft zone, kind of sit back and let the pass rush get to the quarterback. But I think we're going to kind of get a taste of that Rex defense a little bit. I think it's been a while since we've been a heavy blitz type of defense. So that I'm really excited about. We talked a little bit about Jermaine Johnson as well. Him coming off that Achilles tear. Are we going to rely on him? It seems like the Jets are very heavily, and that's a little concerning. Like probably won't be 100% until mid to 3/4 of the way through the season. I just wanted to get your take, and I know these were some of your questions. So what did you think about Connor's responses on that?
Yeah, well, the first thing that he said, I think, was the fact that it's Aaron Glenn's defense. He said that it's going to be a Glenn defense, which I thought was interesting. When we hired Wilkes, I thought it was going to be like, all right, Glenn's going to be like the head coach. It's going to be Wilkes' defense, Engstrand's offense, and Glenn's going to be kind of the mind in between both of them because, we've been sold on the idea of he knows both sides of the ball. Does he? I don't know. But I thought that was interesting. So, and, I think it just goes to show, like, Wilkes has bounced around and I feel like there's been like some friction between him. Like he was with the Niners with Shanahan. He got fired after 1 year. He was with Carolina, I think before then. He's like a 1-year mercenary. For Connor to say that it's an Aaron Glenn defense, I thought was interesting. I think it kind of shows that they might be on like the same page. They might share some of that ideology. I think Wilkes is going to be calling the plays, but I think Glenn's going to have a heavy hand in the overall scheme. And that's going to come from a lot more blitzing. I think we have the personnel at linebacker. I mean, our linebackers are fast, right? Quincy's a killer. That dude's a human missile. So I would love to see him, blitzing a little bit more. I think that's like one of his strengths. So to kind of see him do that a little bit more, see what Sherwood has. He's a little bit more of like a speed guy. I think he's good in coverage and he's a very solid tackler. But to see what he has in that capacity is going to be cool. Clearly, they trust him because they gave him $15 million a year. And that was Glenn and Muji, not anybody else. Like they gave him, that was their first real big move. I'm most excited because it's going to put more pressure on the corners, right? And I think we have the personnel at corner to do just that. Our corners are 6'2", 6'3", 190 pounds to 200 pounds, long arms. They're going to be able to get in your grill and make it tough to get off the ball. And I think that like plays to Sauce Gardner's strengths, right? I don't see Sauce Gardner as like this like zone corner like Richard Sherman was. I kind of see him as like this like man corner who's going to make it. He's a physical guy. I mean, he was flagged a lot last year. So we'll see if that goes in his direction a little bit more. But I want to see him in that role of like, all right, you're going to be gassed by the time you're 15 yards down the field breaking out into your post route. because I'm going to make it really freaking hard to get past the 5-yard line. And I think this is why we drafted him, dude. Like, this guy's fast. He's big. Like, I think he's just perfect for that kind of role. And we have a head coach that played cornerback. I mean, like, it's not like it's going to be a lack of coaching on that end. Brandon Stevens, kind of the same thing, obviously to a lesser degree. He's a big physical corner that can stick to receivers. And Azareye'h Thomas, I think, kind of fills that role too, right? I mean, the guy's big. He's 6'1", 200 pounds, and he's got long arms. Not the fastest. That's why he's a 3rd-round pick, but they're clearly going for something there, right? All 3 of their outside corners are that archetype of corner, right? So, and then you have Michael Carter in the slot, who's going to be fantastic because he's back from injury. He's a great player. So I think it's going to put a more heavy load on the corners, but I think we have the room to kind of withstand that, especially because you'd like to think they upgraded the safety, back end help a little bit more. I think they can trust those guys a little bit more with Cisco back there instead of, Chuck Clark or whoever. So that's kind of what I took away from it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think getting Michael Carter at 100% this year is going to be huge. I have no. I mean, when is the last time we saw a blitz heavy defense? It might be 15 years at this point.
Even Bulls.
Yeah, and not as much, but I think he did. I was watching actually some 2015 highlights today. He did bring the blitz on occasion, but I don't think it was as heavy as it was in 2010. During our prime, playoff runs and stuff like that. But it's going to be nice to see them bringing the heat. Like, I automatically, my mind goes to week 1. It's like, we saw how teams beat us last year with Aaron Rodgers, and it was by bringing pressure. And that gets me really fired up for week 1 because I think that defense is going to be super fired up. I think that comments on McAfee don't go unnoticed, and we're going to be super fired up week 1. Fields is going to be fired up. It's going to be an electric atmosphere. I know I kind of got off topic there to talk about week 1, and we're ways away from that. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to the defense. The line in terms of Jermaine, like, I think I stand where I said on that. It's like, he's probably not going to be 100% till later in the season. And I hope they don't rely heavily on him because he probably won't be as quick, as fast, as nimble on his feet.
Be careful what you say, because Clemens is behind him.
Oh, I'm so sorry. But yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And again, thanks to Connor for doing the episode last week. We had a ton of great content of that, and it was really eye-opening stuff. So do you have any, final words here on maybe TV shows or like that?
No, there's, we're trying to grind through some, like you said, the dog days of camp, of summer rather. When does training camp start? It's like July, right?
July, yeah, mid-July. So
we have like another, month or so, a little under a month until, these things really kick off. And, we're on Badlands again next week, man. We're doing this thing. So, shout out to those guys. Go and get your live show tickets. We're going to be there, again.
Yep.
Going to try not to drink as many Michelob Ultras as last time.
God, it was hell of a night, man. But
hell of a night.
I think we're going to be there.
Fantastic time, though.
Really good time. They did a really great job, and hence the reason why we're going again. Like, I'm really looking forward to it. So,
yeah.
We're just laughing because it was a good time. But
it was fantastic.
Yeah, no, definitely go follow if you're liking this content too. Like, make sure to go follow us on Twitter at @NYJ_VulturesRow. We're almost at 800 followers. We're trying to get to 1,000 before the start of the season. I think that's very feasible.
We'll do a giveaway. Let's do a giveaway.
We will. We haven't announced it yet, but we've done 2 giveaways for the Badlands feed that's listening to us now. We've done a jersey giveaway, which we had someone from Canada win, and then we had a Pat is a season ticket holder. He sits right behind the Jets bench. We did a giveaway. I think Rob Nardello won that one. So we have a bunch of giveaways coming your way. These aren't like some phony giveaways either. Like, they're real. Yeah. Like, someone's coming to the game, sitting front row behind the Jets seats with us, and they won that from just like liking. And
I wonder if he's getting my ticket. He might be getting my ticket.
Yeah, maybe we're not going. I mean, he's definitely going. Maybe I don't know if Tony's going, but
listen. I'll be there.
He'll find a way in. I know he will. But yeah, stay tuned. We do giveaways, and I think as the season gets closer, we're gonna do more. So
yeah.
Thanks again for listening. Do you have any more closing thoughts before I?
That's it, brother.
Sweet. Thanks for listening, guys, and we'll talk to you next week. Peace.